Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Gemini February 2022 horoscope forecast. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, first thing off is as far as February goes, okay, the Sun is going to be in Aquarius from the 1st until the 18th. So the ninth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. Well, at this time, Gemini, it could be a time where you might put a lot of focus. It could be on maybe an unusual or an orthodox philosophy or belief, or even an astrological belief or publishing even. It might even be maybe focusing on an Aquarius higher education course. It could be something with astrology, computers, electronics, aviation, meteorology, as some examples. It can also be a timing. The sun is also connected with biological father and children, and it might be a time where those people may factor in more in your beliefs at this time, or even with foreign travel at this time as well, or even expanding your horizons. It might be a time too where you may desire to shine in those in ninth house related matters such as publishing or advertising, higher education. Um, it might be doing things for in-laws or grandchildren. It might be a time where you put a lot of attention on altruistically and selflessly helping in-laws and grandchildren, well, if applicable. Um, it can be a time to, I mean, next thing I want to get at, okay, the sun is going to be in Pisces from February 18th until the 28th, as far as February goes. So the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. Well, at this time, this could be a time where you could be a strong focus, put your attention. It could be on sacrificing your time in your career. It could be for the dominant parent, which is often the father, authority figures. And it might be focusing too on forgiveness as well, and and compassion in matters with the dominant parent, which is often the father, and authority figures even, or even older people at this time. It could be a time where it might also put a focus on Piscean career. You could be putting your attention on that at this time. It could be doing something metaphysical, which includes astrology, poetry, dancing, um, photography, chemistry, anesthesiology. Um, and this is a time where you may want to shine in career related matters, and the biological father and children may figure more prominently in 10th house matters. It could be as matters with notoriety, recognition, your career at this time. Um, it could be a time to where you may also be able to not just focus and put your attention on career related matters, but it's a time you may want to shine in these matters as well. And you might feel your life, I mean, the sun is about life, or your life might be dominated even by career matters at this time, more so than usual. And also, as far as improving, having energy and vitality to perhaps improve your stature in life, your social status, and doing so with Pisces idealism, as long as you're not being overly unrealistic at this time, Gemini. So these are some ways that this transit may manifest and pan out. Now the next thing up is, okay, there's going to be a new moon in Aquarius on February 1st, so the ninth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. This could be the start of a Aquarius related higher education course. It could be something with astrology or computers or astronomy, electronics innovation. or maybe new technology, I should say, meteorology as some examples. And it might be a time where you might begin to altruistically and selflessly help. It could be foreigners, maybe it's something with in-laws or grandchildren, if applicable, or the beginning of a Aquarius-related publishing venture, which could be connected with what I stated before. Some examples, again, with astrology or astronomy or computers or meteorology, humanitarianism, altruism as some examples. And this could also be, the time to for you, Gemini, where you might maybe start. It could be a very unexpected, unusual long distance journey at this time as well. And really, I mean, the new moon is a good time, of course, to have that abundance and surfeit of energy to do so at this point in time. And this could also be a time, next thing I want to get, there's going to be a full moon in Leo on February 16th. So for Gemini, the third house is what will be emphasized and highlighted, and this can manifest in a number of ways. For you, Gemini, I mean, one way it could be the completion or culmination of a creative writing venture. Maybe it could be a time too where maybe you become tired, exasperated, or full of an overly domineering, overbearing, bombastic, arrogant. Could be a sibling, a cousin, a neighbor, somebody that may have been prominent in your early education. It could also be a time where there might be, an unveiling. Maybe it could be being a conversation dominator. Maybe it has something to do with your creative ability as far as writing goes. It might be a time where you might also be, again, I mean, this is where the full moons in astrology can be about endings. Again, it could be something that maybe end. It could be a dramatic ending with something third house related, such as something with a sibling or a cousin or neighbor. It might be something also where maybe it's being tired, exasperated, full, so to speak, of extravagance in local transportation and short journeys. Maybe you've been taking people errands and driving them to the store and things of that nature, and maybe you're not getting compensated for that as an example. There might be extravagant or exorbitant fees for your vehicle that maybe you become tired of at this point in time. And it could be anyway. Well, the next thing I want to get at, okay, Mercury is going to be in Capricorn from February 1st until the 14th of February. So for Gemini, the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. It could be at this time where this could be about a lot of serious discussions. It could be with people you're in an intimate relationship with, a shared resources scenario. Somebody could be, maybe matters. It could also be a lot of introspective thinking. Maybe about, it could be about, again, a shared resources situation. Maybe it has to do with moral, emotional, monetary support given and received. You might be thinking more negatively about something 8th house related, whether it could be an intimate relationship, a shared resources situation. Maybe there's a situation with a will or taxes or insurance, and you're thinking maybe pessimistic regarding that for whatever reason at this time. But also, one good thing about Mercury being in Capricorn, it could also indicate discipline, thinking at this time, and it could be over 8th house matters in general. And the thing is, and it's also about, Mercury's connected with analysis as well. So it can be a time where you have, going through a lot of, analysis regarding 8th house matters. It could be, Capricorn's a sign of business. 8th house is shared resources, so it could be something of that nature. Mercury is also connected with siblings, cousins, and neighbors, so it could be that these people may be playing some role and maybe helping you make some major transformation in your life, or going through a crisis in doing so, and being very disciplined in doing so at this time, and going about it in a very methodical manner, but being consistent as well, since we're talking about Capricorn. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, well, next thing up, Mercury will be in Aquarius from February 14th until the 28th, as far as February goes. So for Gemini, the 9th house will be emphasized and highlighted. Now, one way this could manifest, this could be about having discussions about your future and higher education, your religion. It can be regarding maybe it's foreign travel as well, publishing. This could be a very auspicious time for writing things to be published. Remember, Mercury is connected with communications and writings. The 9th house is publishing, and it can be a time for writing something Aquarius related, such as something with computers or electronics, or astrology or astronomy, or meteorology, innovation, to get published. It could be a very good time for publishing things on the internet as well. And it can be a time too for you at this time, Gemini, where you might be, a time where you're just, again, thinking about your future with publishing, matters with higher education. It could be with in-laws, and it's about thinking, very forward, progressive thinking in these matters, I would say, at this point in time. And it can be a time where, as well, where Mercury is about analysis, so there might be much analysis in these areas. And also, Mercury in Aquarius is more very lucid, and being very lucid and perspicacious in your communication. So you might be able to talk a very clear way in a very an understandable manner, regarding when you're talking with in-laws, with grandchildren, if applicable, about maybe expanding horizons. About it could be about taking long distance journeys, or publishing. Even matters with some cases, it could be with importing and exporting. So now another thing is that Venus will be in Capricorn for the entirety of 2022. So the 8th houses will be emphasized and highlighted. Now at this time for you, Gemini, one way this could manifest, maybe you get involved with an older person in an intimate relationship, something that's deep. It might be, it might be something too, where it can be a time, as far as money goes. Maybe there's some monetary restrictions you might be dealing with in a shared resources situation, or it could even be making money, very, in a very consistent manner, very just being very orthodox and conventional. It could be in some 8th house matter, something with, or 8th house, I guess you could say 8th house field, such as something with the occult, which includes astrology or insurance or taxes, or even recycling at this time. And it's more about responsibility with money and being prudent with money. And it could be in matters with spending on someone you may be in an intimate relationship with, as an example. And it could also be about valuing, perhaps leaving a Capricorn type of legacy. Even surprising for Gemini, maybe being rather serious, prudent, premeditative, disciplined, structured, consistent, having good business acumen, as being ambitious, as some examples. And now this could also be now the next thing I want to get at, Mars will be in Capricorn for the entirety of 2022. So again, the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. Now, this could be a time where situations with a sexual partner, someone you're in an intimate relationship with, may be contentious and acrimonious, which may offset the Venus transit I'm talking about before. Venus is about peace and tranquility. Mars can be about combat and and acrimony. And this is about a time where there might be arguments over could be career related matters, ambitions, just being generally consistent. It could be with an intimate being responsible, responsibilities in general. It can be with a sexual partner, someone you're in an intimate relationship with. It could be a shared resources situation, such as a business partnership. And it might be a time too where there may be some anger regarding matters connected with moral, emotional, or monetary support, where you might feel there's some restrictions in that at this point in time. But it could also be a time which could be very positive and auspicious for having the vitality and energy, very disciplined energy, being in Capricorn, doing things, doing 8th house related matters, whether it's matters with a will or taxes or insurance or recycling, or you might be dealing with someone's death at this time, or it could be over something matters pertaining to an inheritance. And this is really having the drive and motivation at this time for an 8th house related matter, or making a transformation. Being in Capricorn, it could be one that's done, might be career related. It might be done with a lot of ambition, a lot of consistent energy, disciplined energy at this point. I'm done very methodically. So these are some ways that this transit can manifest at this time. Now, next thing up, Jupiter will be in Pisces for the entirety of February 2022. So the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. So at this time for Gemini, well, it can be a time where it could be very fortuitous and beneficial for career-related matters. It could be prosperity in that, in doing something career-related, such as something with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, poetry, dancing, photography, chemistry, anesthesiology, as some examples. But at the same time, keep in mind, as I've spoken about in previous videos, Jupiter can be very strong. It can be very paradoxical. It can be very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. It may enlarge and expand in some cases, maybe dealing with deception or duplicity, at your place of business, or even in matters with the dominant parent, which is often the father. It could be older people, authority figures, but also it could be a time where it could expand, your ability to sacrifice at your place of business to be able, it could even be doing things for the dominant parent, which is often the father. And could also be fortuitous for having Pisces like reputation at this time in public image, such as somebody that could be sacrificing, altruistic, compassionate, forgiving, as some examples, empathetic. It can be, and remember that Jupiter is also connected with publishing, so it can be a very auspicious time for publishing something Pisces related that might get you certain notoriety and recognition. And again, it can be something Pisces related. It can be some fictional or fantasy writing, or maybe there's something with poetry, or something published connected with the metaphysical, which includes astrology or the paranormal, or something associated with photography or dancing or chemistry at this point in time. So anyway, well, next thing up is that Saturn will still be in Aquarius. So for Gemini, the 9th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Now, Gemini, you might find yourself, maybe there may be certain restrictions you're dealing with at this time as far as foreign travel. Keep in mind that Saturn, in Aquarius, by itself at this time, and collectively how it could impact people. it can indicate that there may be some restrictions and limitations in society that people may be dealing with. And keep in mind the COVID variant is prevalent right now, and it might impact Gemini in their long distance journeys more so than most at this time. And maybe that is where Gemini is really feeling that restriction, as far as, or I should say, that Saturn energy at this point in time. Hold on a moment, people. It could also be time where you might be taking care of a debilitated or sickly. It could be an in-law, it could be a grandchild at this time if applicable. Um, it might be where you're showing, you're helping somebody, they're with a debilitation or physical illness, chronic illness, and doing so very selflessly, or it could be with a lot of altruism, since we are talking about Aquarius energy. It might be a time too where you might have more responsibilities at this time, Gemini. For ninth house matters, it could be publishing or advertising. Maybe there's something with foreign travel or higher education. Maybe you're taking a higher education course that's Aquarius related, such as something with electronics or computers or astrology, astronomy, meteorology. Maybe there's more work that's required in this than you originally anticipated. It could also be, a time to, next I'm going to get to Uranus being in Taurus for, of course, the entirety of February 2022. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. So at this time, Gemini, well, this can manifest in a number of ways. You might find yourself at this time, maybe you feel your freedom and independence may be inhibited. At this time, where there's some restrictions with that, you might be experiencing disruptions in your sleep, in your dreams, or maybe there's some dreams that are Uranus related. It might be connected with astrology or astronomy or computers or electronics. At this time, you might be dealing with friendships, that ones that you may have seen as stable, loyal, steadfast, persistent. Maybe they're actually some might be becoming hidden adversaries at this time for you, Gemini. Now, in some cases, very isolated, it may manifest. It could be some, an unusual mental illness. In some cases, might manifest where it can be where one, it could be some changes. Maybe there's some, changes in behavior at this time. Maybe are misconstrued as a mental illness, because remember, you're talking about the 12th house of deception, and it's also the 12th house of mental illness. Uranus is, the unusual. It could just be some unusual changes in behavior. Maybe others are seeing, in a different light at this time. And another thing too, this is a time, Gemini, where you might be, again, you might feel that you might have friendships you might feel are inhibited, or there's some restriction or limitation connected with them at this time. And also, acting maybe in some, non-conforming or rebellious behavior may, may be in the self-undoing, or may even be tied in with secret sorrows. Now, as far as Neptune goes, Neptune's going to be in Pisces for the entirety of February 2022. So again, the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Gemini. Now, at this time, Gemini, it could be where you might, be very idealistic regarding, I perceive the, the dominant parent, which is often the father, in a way where you're overlooking transgressions and shortcomings, being very idealistic in your perception of that person, which may be unrealistic as well. It might be a time too, in some cases, depending on aspects, I would say, the dissolving or dissipation of a reputation or public image. If it's making negative aspects, if it makes an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn, It might be a time where there might be some sorrow and despondency in connection with this. Now, if there's a good aspect to your natal Jupiter, then things could be different, and it could be more about reaching attainments in a career, or attainments that are where you're idealistic about, in terms of improving your public image, your reputation, gaining notoriety and recognition at this point in time. It might also be an interest in a Piscean career, doing something with photography or poetry or dancing or the metaphysical, which includes astrology. Now, the dominant parent, which is often the father, authority figures, older people, they may appear more nebulous and unclear at this time, more so than usual. And the thing about, well, last but not least, I'm going to now get to Pluto will be in Capricorn during the entire entirety of February 2022. So for Gemini, the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, Gemini, well, this could manifest in a number of ways. Sadly, in some cases, it may indicate, could be the death of someone you're in intimate connection with at this time. Maybe there's some cases, maybe there's some deep psychological issues you may be dealing with, or it could be where you're going deep into occult related matters, which can include astrology. Maybe you're into the psychological aspect of astrology at this time. If you are somebody, say, that is currently an astrologer, you might delve really deep into it during this transit. And another thing too is that this could be a time for Gemini where there might be power struggles with someone you're in a shared resources situation with. You might feel at this time, I mean, Pluto is extreme, and you got to remember it can be the obliteration of some kind of moral, emotional, or monetary support, or it could give more power to it. And a lot of this, of course, could be predicated and dependent on aspects this makes 2 points in your chart. And it makes a positive aspect to Jupiter, say. It can be where you might really have more power and control in the support, maybe that is received. But if it makes an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn, it may go the other way, and it might be more restricting, and maybe you feel that the support that you're receiving is everything but completely destroyed at this time. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.